I was reading, though, that you said the next pandemic you are predicting within maybe 25 years. Is that
certainly
accurate?
we'll have one in the next 25 years.
There are good billionaires, there are bad billionaires, and then there is Bill Gates, the omni-billionaire, the billionaire whose expertise reaches like a fog around every subject. Why is Bill Gates even on The View? Why? Bill Gates? Like, when did our culture become you're allowed to have Bill Gates? Like, now, Louis Armstrong. Like, entertainers used to have to learn a skill, a craft, an art. Now, just Bill Gates goes on The View, lets you know what he thinks. And what is Bill Gates about? What does Bill Gates represent? What is he an indicator of? Why do so many people have such strong feelings about Bill Gates? And why does someone like Bill Gates even need a press profile? What does it indicate? What does it point to?
Mr. Gates, you also called Elon Musk's political influence abroad, quote, insane, along with another word we can't repeat here. But
here he is on the subject of USAID and how the cancelling of USAID will lead to millions of deaths. The issue is divisive because some people see USAID as a kind of a money laundering operation, part of America's imperialist global reach, ways of rewarding, for example, the Clinton Foundation and the sets of interests that Bill Clinton is strongly associated with, i.e. global power that is not explicit nor democratic, a kind of centralized, resource-based and resource-oriented set of powers that move through the world, benefiting from pandemics, benefiting from wars, avoiding and evading proper inquiry. Real power. That should be... If you're documentary makers looking for something to make a documentary about that is about real power and about how real power operates these days, look at Bill Gates. Look at him. Look at his influence and the way that he benefits from crisis. Look at the very fact that someone like Bill Gates has a relationship with The View. Why do you need Bill Gates to be on The View? What are you telling us? What are you trying to normalize now? Whose interests are you operating on behalf of? They really know not what they do. I don't just mean the hosts of The View. I mean the many, many media interests that support globalism, partly because they're invested in it, but partly because they don't know that they are participants in evil.
What's your take on his political access and influence here in America right now?
Well, Elon, his private sector work, has been very innovative, really fantastic. A lot of private sector people, when they get into government, they don't take the time necessarily to see what the good work is or why it's structured the way it is. So I'm a little worried.
Yeah, he should, stick to the thing that he's good at in the private sector. Billionaires have got no business getting involved in, for example, the World Health Organization, or Gavi, or any other vaccine-oriented agenda. For example, billionaires shouldn't get involved in African agriculture or the agriculture in India, messing stuff up by patenting seeds and getting involved in agriculture, potentially participating in a crisis that led to the death of 400,000 Indian farmers. In fact, wait a minute, these are all things that I've done. In a way, I watched Dear Bill Gates then recognize as he was talking, how can I criticize Elon Musk's overreach when the criticism is in itself a part of the overreach that I'm condemning, as I, a billionaire, sit on The View saying billionaires shouldn't get involved in stuff. Which billionaire do you think's had the most negative impact on the earth? Is it Elon Musk or is it Bill Gates? And who has invested in which particular type of media? You'll say that Elon Musk gets a pass because he owns X. You could be watching this on X right now. But Bill Gates, you might not know this, is a significant investor in the BBC, funds scholarships, literally Microsoft, NBC. So, like, Bill Gates no longer owns Microsoft. And I know these things get complex when it comes to ownership models. But the fact is that Bill Gates has spent a lot of money ensuring you do not have access to an objective perspective on him. So let me know in the comments and chat, what is your objective perspective on Bill Gates? And if you had to pick a billionaire oligarch, and it seems that you do have to, is it Bill Gates or is it Elon Musk? Let's go back to The View.
Particularly with this USAID stuff. My foundation partners with USAID on nutrition and getting vaccines out. And, there's incredible people. They're not actually worms that work there.
Yeah.
So, hopefully we'll get some of that work back in shape. In fact, if we don't, you could have literally millions of deaths. So,
Yeah.
With aid, people think, wow, how much do we give to these countries? As you said, it's less than 1%. People think it's 5% and it should be 2%, but it's actually under 1%.
Wow. And still saving lives. Well,
Yeah, and that's how you should think about it. In a democracy, you're allowed to have elections and vote for policies that you agree with and vote out politicians that you don't agree with, or political parties. The problem with Bill Gates is he is transcendent of those kind of systems of power. Whoever you vote for, you're going to be getting some Bill Gates. As he said himself on The View, one of the top recipients of USAID grants was Gavi, one of his organizations that he indeed is part of his vaccine endeavor. What's a good way of describing Gavi? It's like, isn't that a sort of a kind of a medical initiative that manufactures and disseminates vaccines? Isn't that like a good way of describing them? In any event, it's pretty extraordinary to not have Bill Gates, for all the things that he could talk about openly on The View, say, look, I actually get loads of USAID. Did he say that? Did he say, I'm one of the reason I like this is because it's money that I control and influence that I wield. He goes on to say that there's probably going to be another pandemic and it could happen any day now. He's a kind of an apocalyptic prophet of pandemics, always telling us there's going to be a pandemic, always funding some exercise where people practice for when there is a pandemic, always funding research that could actually lead to... Actually, I don't know that Bill Gates is directly involved in funding gain-of-function research or research into the creation of viruses that you can then develop vaccines for. I don't know that. I sometimes get mixed up with all of these people because, they're all mates with Jeffrey Epstein. They're all flying around to his magical world of wonder, his dirty little donkey island, and then turning up on the TV to tell you, this is what you should do with your money. This is how you should vote. These are the billionaires that you can rely on. Here he is telling The View why there's going to be another pandemic and you should do as you're told.
before COVID, you say you spent the most sleepless nights worrying about pandemics.
And some sleepless nights worrying about whether people would find out the nature of my relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. 1775. Did you know that drinking 2 to 3 cups of coffee daily can reduce your risk of death by 29%? No! And halve your chances of heart complications? No! But what's the point if your coffee tastes like it was brewed by someone who thinks soy lattes are the pinnacle of human achievement? 1775 Coffee is here to reclaim coffee from the wokarati. Hand-picked Bolivian beans. Don't be disgusting. That is not a euphemism for, flicking your old. Roasted in the USA, delivering pure single-origin brilliance without a hint of deceit. Every dollar you spend enters you to win a blacked-out 2024 Tesla Cybertruck plus $30,000 of cash. Head to 7075. Yes, a Cybertruck, a modern-day Ark, ready to navigate the floods of uncertainty. Is this a metaphor? Was the Ark a metaphor? With the strength to carry you through any of life's trials. Head to 1775coffee.com, stock up and fuel your mornings with rebellion. Use this code for 15% off. Don't miss your chance to drive off in a Cybertruck.
After COVID, has that changed? And if it has, what keeps you up now? Because we all need to know.
Yeah, the pandemic, sadly, was fairly predictable, and it won't be the last pandemic. The next one could be far more severe.
If I have my wicked little way, in a sense, Bill Gates is like David Icke in so much as I've been telling you that this is what's going to happen. If only you'll listen to me. It's predictable. In fact, both of us use that exact idea. Icke, when talking about the proposed occupation of Gaza by presumably US military forces, or Gates talking about the inevitability of another pandemic. What we're discussing is who gets to be powerful. Who do you want to be in charge? And I would say with solely an individualistic and materialistic, maybe even rationalistic worldview, you're not ever going to be able to negotiate or navigate your way through these problems, because who has absolute moral authority? Who has it? Who has supreme authority? You've just seen Bill Gates on The View saying, you can't trust Elon Musk. He may make a lovely Tesla, but don't let him into your Doge. Let him into your electric box, but not down to your Doge hole. Well, why would you grant Elon Musk authority? Yeah, that's a good question. Why would you grant Bill Gates authority? Why would you grant Trump authority, Biden authority, Keir Starmer authority? Why would you grant anybody authority unless you thought they were somehow a conduit of or vessel for some kind of certain reliable moral power? And if you don't believe there is a certain reliable moral power, then I don't know how you even structure government or society or civilization, or on what basis there would be a point in doing that other than the relentless pursuit of pleasure. Then you can't have any kind of moral aggregation or purview at all. And if you accept that there is a God, then you have to sort of simultaneously accept the sovereignty of all individuals and the sanctity of individuals, the sanctity of life itself. And then you would have to probably make an absolute priority the principle of decentralization. Wherever mankind tries to aggregate power, they are defying God, whether that's corporately or bureaucratically. Therefore, you could sort of dismiss almost with one almighty sweep both of the great and dreadful ideologies of the last century: communism, state-based power; fascism, a kind of individualistic power derived from the claim of the leader to be able to control entire populations and even the land itself. And then you'd get rid of the sanitized versions of those ideals that emerged subsequently: social democracy, a kind of sanitized version of communism, and free market capitalism, a kind of economized form of fascism, particularly in its form where massive companies receive subsidies, tax exemption, and are acting beyond any kind of boundary when it comes to geography and often ethics themselves. What's required clearly is a radical review of the way that we consent to be governed. That appears to be coming to the forefront, whether you listen to Bill Gates or Donald Trump, whether you're looking at the new Gaza policy, let's call it, or you're looking at who has the right as a billionaire to pontificate on behalf of humanity. But that's just what I think. Let me know what you think in the comments and the chat.
I mean, this one, it killed millions. It was awful. We got the vaccine. Actually, President Trump's leadership was a factor in getting that out quickly. And so when I spoke to him, I said, okay, here's some other medical innovations, including a thing called an HIV cure that could be accelerated. So, we should be more prepared, both for a pandemic. I'd say that's still number one. You can worry about nuclear war. You can worry about AI.
This sounds like fun.
Plenty to worry about. But
do you
overall,
sleep
I'm
at
an
all?
optimist.
Okay.
No, I mean, it's up to the government to think ahead on behalf of the citizens.
Yes.
So, pandemic, there's a lot that we should be doing that hopefully we'll get our act together before the next one comes. Overall, the innovation in health, both in the developing countries, the rich world, I love being part of that.
I was reading, though, that you said the next pandemic you are predicting within maybe 25 years. Is that
certainly
accurate?
we'll have one in the next 25 years. There's even some pathogens out there that we're watching over right now. So maybe 10% chance in the next 4 years.
The View doing there what The View does best, indeed what The View is designed for, to trivialise important issues and to normalise gargantuan, mutated and dreadful power. How do you sleep at night? How do you sleep at night? Well, just with people I met on Epstein Island. How can you trivialise power of that magnitude? How can you have someone sort of speculate, we don't know whether it's going to be a pandemic? We're talking about sort of unprecedented global power, and we're talking about it in a sort of in banalized terms. Outrageous, really, to participate in at all. Extraordinary that this is something that we permit as sovereign and awakened individuals. How long will we continue to tolerate it? Hopefully not for much longer, because I sense a powerful awakening happening among us right now. But that's just what I think. Let me know what you think in the comments and chat.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you want to see more uncensored content where free speech can flourish, join our live stream. Click the link right here to watch the next video if you want to, or become a member of a growing movement. Download the Rumble app and you'll be informed every time we make a new piece of content. Stay free.